Hey, folks, today is October 3rd, 2018. This is Roland Martin Unfiltered. Sorry for our technical delays, but we are here. We are live. We're going to go right to our top story, and that is they are awaiting the deliberations to begin in Chicago in the case of Jason Van Dyke, the Chicago cop who killed Laquan McDonald. Van Dyke testified on yesterday. The defense and the prosecution, they have rested. The question now is what is going to happen when it comes to this jury? I want to go right now to Chicago with WGN Radio's reporter. He's been with us on a number of times, of course, talking about this case. And so I want to go to him. Pull him up, please. Domati Piango. First of all, how you doing, Doc?
I'm good. How you doing, Ro?
What is the mood there in Chicago? Because obviously the jury, they're going to make their decision. Certainly, folks are hoping that this jury finds Jason Van Dyke guilty of murdering Laquan McDonald.
Yeah, people are on edge. And one thing that we talked about the first time we chatted about this case was about how he was charged with first-degree murder and 16 counts of aggravated battery. A lot of activists were concerned about that charge of first-degree murder by the former state's attorney, Anita Alvarez, because they thought he may be overcharged. The understanding was that by some attorneys, was that Jason Van Dyke didn't wake up that morning and decide that he was going to shoot Laquan McDonald, so that first-degree murder may be hard to prove. Well, in yesterday's trial, when Jason Van Dyke took the stand, a witness for the defense actually said something that didn't play into the defense's favor. It was a psychologist who said that Jason Van Dyke told his partner, Joseph Walsh, when he was on his way to attend to that shooting, that he said, well, if this guy is stabbing out police car tires, why aren't they shooting him? And he says, or why haven't they done anything? And he says, quote, we may have to shoot this guy. So he was saying this on the way to the shooting, and a lot of attorneys are really looking at that statement, seeing if that can make that first-degree murder charge stick. Another thing that the people are worried about as far as the direction that will be given to the jurors is whether or not they'll be able, even though he was charged with first-degree murder and those counts of aggravated battery, will they be able to give him a lesser charge of second-degree murder if they so choose?
And again, of course, we know in the case of Michael Slager, the cop in North Charleston, South Carolina, who shot and killed Walter Scott, he went to prison, but it wasn't because of the murder charge. Of course, there was a hung jury there, and he went to prison. He pleaded guilty to civil rights violations. And have we heard anything from the Department of Justice that they are going to also potentially pursue civil rights violations against Jason Van Dyke?
At this point, to my knowledge, we have not. But this is something that activists are really honing in on and talking about. They've also been talking about this consent decree, trying to figure out what's going to happen. You know, as you may recall, and you talked about it at length several while ago on multiple platforms, about the consent decree during the Obama administration. The previous attorney general recommended that some action be taken in the city of Chicago because of the actions of Chicago police officers. And Jason Van Dyke case, of course, was one of the linchpins of that whole discussion, but they're still hashing out between the city what that consent decree might look like. So from that aspect, those conversations are happening. I haven't heard anything in terms of civil rights charges, though, coming down against Jason Van Dyke. I think everyone is waiting to see how this will play out in the criminal courts.
All right, Domate, we surely appreciate it, man. Thanks a bunch, and we'll be going back to you to see what happens in that case.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, folks, I want to now go to Ohio, where a black police officer she was fired 2 years ago for posting comments on her Facebook page, a Facebook live stream, talking about police beatings in the aftermath of the Alton Sterling shooting in Louisiana. Nakia Jones, this is what she had to say when her son wanted her to know how does she feel as a cop about these shootings.
If you are white and you work in the black community and you are racist, you need to be ashamed of yourself. You stood up there and took an oath. If this is not where you want to work at, then you need to take your behind somewhere else. I decided to work in the African-American community because I'm African-American and I wanted to make a difference. I'm a double minority. They would have got 2 hits for me because I'm African-American and I'm a female. I'm here because I wanted to make a difference. But how dare you stand next to me in the same uniform and murder somebody? How dare you? You ought to be ashamed of yourself. So why don't we just keep it real? If you're that officer that know good and well you got a God complex, you're afraid of people that don't look like you have no business in that uniform. Take it off. If you're afraid to go and talk to an African-American female or a male or a Mexican male or female because they're not white like you, take the uniform off. You have no business being a police officer. Because there's many of us that will give our life for anybody. And we took this oath and we meant it. If you are that officer that's prejudiced, take the uniform off and put the KKK hoodie on. Because I will not stand for that. If you're an officer that works with me and you're wrong, I will tell you you're wrong. My heart goes out to that young man's family, because if it was my son, I don't know what I would do. I am my brother and my sister's keeper. That's why I'm going to keep this uniform on. Because today I wanted to quit when I saw that video. But I need for y'all to support the ones of us that are right. And I need for you to stand for those of us that are not right.
Folks, Nakia Jones worked for the Warrensville Heights Police Department. She was later fired, basically for violating the sick leave policy. Joining us right now is her attorney, Ben Crump, as well as Nakia Jones. Glad to have both of you here. First and foremost, Nakia, I want to go to you. It's been 2 years since you were fired. Your husband is also a police officer. Is the police union, are they standing behind you?
My union attorney is representing me. Unfortunately, our union guys are, I think, honestly, they're afraid of retaliation. So they're not doing everything they could do for me. It's almost like I'm out on a limb. And just to let you know, Mr. Martin, it'll be a year, October 20th. I got fired last year, October 20th.
And I mean, so they're saying you violated a sick leave policy. What are they talking about?
They're saying that I was out. I got into a car accident May 28th. I ended up being diagnosed with a concussion and a post-concussion syndrome. The department tried to force me back to work against doctor's orders. And when I did not return, they knew that I had been invited to do a church gathering speaking engagement. This was a year prior. They went on my Facebook page, saw the flyer, and decided we're going to order her back to work. I don't care what the doctors say. And when they tried to do that and I didn't, they said I violated sick leave policy, but I was out on workers' comp. I'm still out on workers' comp.
I want to go to Ben Crump, your attorney. Ben, of course, there's an arbitration that's taking place, but you guys don't want to do that. You want this to go to the court, correct?
Absolutely. The arbitration that is precipitated by the police policy with the union is very slanted for the police, Roland. And this ultimately is a First Amendment freedom of speech issue. Nakia went on her personal Facebook page and she made this to her personal friends, 400 of them. Somehow they shared it with others, and it got seen, I think, now by 10 million people, because you see her heart in that video, all the passion, Roland. And we keep saying, especially in the Black community, where are all the good police officers when they see these injustices? Why aren't they saying anything? Well, Nakia, she spoke up. She's a good police officer. And when her son said, "Mama, why are you all killing us?" that hit a core with her heart. And she made that passionate plea, Roland. And for that, they terminated her. And we have evidence that they conspired to terminate her. This sick leave dismissal is just a pretextual reason to try to say, we're going to shut you up. I dare you speak against the blue line. And that's what this is. And it's so interesting. You were talking about Laquan McDonough in the earlier piece, because those 13 officers, they lied, Roland, and we see that based on the video. And now when Nakia tells the truth, she is fired immediately. Anita Alvarez, it was over a year before they even released the video of Laquan McDonough saying they're still investigating. So what this ultimately comes down to, Roland, is we have to support good police officers, good brothers and sisters who are in uniform, who take a stand against the obvious injustice. And if you look at the video for Alton Sterling, and the police officer says, "I'm going to kill you, you black," and then a minute later he kills him, Nakia is absolutely right. That is murder. And our silence is betrayal, no matter if you're a police officer or you're anybody in the community. And that's what this is about, trying to silence us.
Nakia, do you regret making that video?
No, not at all. And I actually talked to Cameron, Austin Sterling's son. I reached out, found out where he was, a friend of mine. So me and Cameron talk all the time. And every time he talks to me, he keeps saying, Auntie, thank you for not letting them forget about my father.
Ben Crump, do you believe that obviously this is retaliation on the part of the police department? You alluded to that earlier. And then you talked about the making of this video. Do you believe that this sends a chilling effect, creates a chilling effect for other officers out there who might want to say something? Pretty much what's happening here, it's saying, no, beware, we will come after you.
Absolutely, Roland. And for everybody who's listening to Unfiltered today, we have to stand behind Nakiya, but also we have to stand behind the Constitution. She has a First Amendment freedom of speech. They had no social media policy. This is a direct violation of her constitutional rights, saying that you, Black policewoman, cannot express yourself. And if you do, this is what's going to happen to you. And this is more of a message for others, I believe, Roland. And that's why we have to be ready to take this matter to the Ohio Supreme Court if they refuse to let us not have any recourse other than this arbitration. And we have to be willing to go all the way to the United States Supreme Court, because never has there been a more critical time in America for women to have their right to be heard. And thank you so much, Roland, for getting this out, because mainstream media don't want to talk about Nakiya having her First Amendment rights to free speech. We are talking about all the Me Too stuff, but Nakiya is part of the Me Too as well. She has a right to express herself as a woman, as a mother, as a person who cares about her community. And that's why we have to take this all the way up.
Nakiya, you also were invited to the White House to meet with President Barack Obama. Do you believe that that also is a factor in terms of your firing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that a lot of the men felt a certain way. They already felt like she got all this attention. Who does she think she is? And then when I got the invite to the White House, especially after the arbitration hearing everything, they didn't even want me to go to the arbitration. And the sad thing is, in my honest opinion, my chief or my mayor didn't want me to go.
And they hold 1 second, Ben. And they told you not to go?
They actually, when I called and asked to go, my chief gave me the runaround. He said, I need everybody's information so I can check it out. I gave it to him. I didn't get a call back. My cousin knows the mayor personally. He called the mayor about 8 o'clock at night, and the mayor was like, oh, yeah, she can go. But I believe in the beginning, like they said, they both said thumbs down because they could not prove that I got the invite, which is not true.
Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, Roland, I was going to say, also, she got threatened. Her fellow officers said that she deserves a bullet to the back of her head for making that video.
And Ben, 1 second, Ben. When you say that, was that verbal? Was that written? Was that on a voicemail? Was it an email? Was it a social media? Where was that comment made?
It was made throughout our police department, and actually it got so bad where some of the community heard about it, but it was on a little piece of paper in my mailbox that said, BITCH, you need a bullet to the back of your head. When I saw it, I just looked at it and was like, I can't believe this. In our roll call room, the only people that have access to our roll call room is police officers or the chief or something like that. You regular people can't go back. Then I got a letter that told me I was responsible for the 11 officers' death in Dallas, and I need to go get my Black Panther Party card. Then I got a real derogatory letter that they kept saying it's from a Black officer telling me to go get back on welfare, go back to East Cleveland and dance in the street with the cooties, told me I was disgraced. It just was really ugly.
Ben, go ahead.
And Roland, when they made those threats to her, what was really outrageous is her police department did not even investigate those threats.
Wait 1 second. 1 second, Ben. You're saying that with all the things that she just said, the police department, those threats made against a police officer, there was no investigation whatsoever?
None whatsoever. In fact, the chief response has been to tell her and her supporters that they should have been more responsible. So why should Nakiya have been more responsible in making a video that was private and answering the question for her children. That's the only response she has gotten. And Roland, that goes against all their policy when there is a threat made to a police officer. As many times as you and I, Roland, have been all across America, when they kill black and brown boys, they say it's because officers' safety, and they felt threatened. Now, what's more threatening than getting a note in your locker saying that word, you deserve a bullet to the back of your head?
Certainly tragic there. Nakia Jones, Ben Crump, we certainly appreciate it. Ben, when is the hearing this week?
The hearing is actually on the 22nd, and then we're trying to go to court. And we don't want a final decision on the arbitration because we kind of know what they're going to do. They always do that, Roland. And before we leave, Roland Martin, I want to thank you so very much, brother, for bringing Unfiltered to Dallas, Texas, in the matter of Botham Jean. I mean, you really helped that community have a sense of empowerment. And you're an institution, I've told you before, Roland, but you just being there in person with Unfiltered meant so much for getting justice for Botham Jean.
Well, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you very much. And to the folks out there, we did live stream that community forum that took place on Saturday in Dallas. You can actually go to our YouTube channel. You can actually watch the entire forum, the whole 2-hour forum. It's available on all of our channels, YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope. Nakia Jones, thank you so very much. Ben Crump, thanks a bunch.
Thank you, sir, for having us.
All right, let's go right to our panel. We got Kim Claychick, Executive Director of Potential Me, Joe Madison, host of the Joe Madison Show on Sirius XM Radio, also known as The Black Eagle, and Lauren Victoria Burke, writer for the National Newspaper Publishers Association. Glad to have all of you here. Let's first talk about the Nakia Jones case. Again, Lauren, I want to start with you. Your family, law enforcement, folks in your family as well, and you trying to convince me that she gets fired because of a sick leave policy?
Yeah, it's unbelievable to think about all the police cases and the shootings that we've seen. Obviously, so many of them on video. And then this woman, I think actually for what she verbally said on Facebook, I don't think it has anything to do with sick leave policy. All of my relatives who've been in law enforcement, it's very difficult, obviously, given the union, particularly in New York, to get any of them off the job. If you see the case of Dan Pantaleo, who choked Eric Garner to death.
Who killed Eric Garner?
Right.
It's been 4 years.
On video.
He is still
And he has got
working.
a desk job with making more money, actually. And actually, he has actually been protesting to get his job back. And so someone is dead. Someone is dead, and that's a police officer who is still on the job. So it's a pretty amazing thing to see somebody lose their job over really nothing, an administrative situation.
And Joe, they're going after her pension.
Right.
And they're going after her entire career. And what you should also add to this discussion is that what tends to happen is that officers will go from a situation like you just described and what Crump just described, and they'll go down the road and get another job.
Right.
Especially in a little town like Ohio. I sat there just amazed, and when I read in prepping for this segment, I mean, all you have to do is go to the first 2 paragraphs, and you know this is a First Amendment case.
The cop who killed Tamir Rice got fired
actually
from another
come from
police
down the
department
road and got hired in Cleveland.
Got hired in Cleveland.
That's right, exactly.
Where she works is in Cuyahoga County.
Yeah.
Right.
No neighboring police department will hire her.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And we know that these officers, if they shoot a young black man, the reality is, I don't care anywhere in the United States, their names don't get into a file,
right.
And they end up going and working somewhere else. This is just absolutely outrageous because you have done this, I have done this. We have always asked black officers to stand up and speak out.
Right.
And she did just that. What they didn't like was the Maxine approach, and I mean Maxine Waters.
Yeah, but also
she just didn't take any prisoners.
They also didn't like the fact, Kimberly, that this thing blew up, that it went viral all across the country.
Yes.
It captured the imagination. It was shown on cable news networks, on local stations. It was shared all over the place. And to get an invite from the President of the United States,
right.
All of that. Absolutely, I think, clearly played a role in them saying, no, sister, we're going to put you in your place.
That's exactly what happened. And I wondered, and that was my question, were they taking her out because of the sick leave policy. I doubt they have any policy that says because you post on social media, we could take your job from you.
Well, no, they did try to argue it was social media, but as Crump said, they said, but y'all don't have a social media policy.
Didn't have one.
Didn't have one.
There's no way that they do. And so it's really sad, too. I learned a lot just listening to her today. I didn't realize that the notes were actually coming from someone in the police department, and then they decided not even to investigate it. That's huge. And I have to also point out, I don't believe Attorney Crump is actually on this case officially. He is reaching out and doing this like pro bono. Because
no, he's on it. So he's going to actually be, he's actually presenting the arguments. He's involved in the actual arbitration hearing, but they want it to actually go to the court system. They don't want to. They don't want to be. So he's involved with it. They don't want to involve. They don't want to be just in the arbitration. They want this to be in the court system where you have discovery, where it's public.
And can we bring up something else too? And don't let this go by. The union is not helping her. Any other time, the union.
Now she's a union lawyer, but in terms of but a union apparatus.
Look, the apparatus, as you say, you're absolutely right. They gather around, they meet in someone's lower level in a house, and they start, here's what you need to say, here's how you say. That union is not helping her, and I bet you she's paying union dues.
But here's the deal. Where are the Blue Lives Matter people? Where are the folks who love touting cops? You would think that when people, I really want to see, especially where the conservatives in this area, because again, this was a woman who was talking about the importance of the uniform, the importance of cops in communities. Where are they? It's amazing how they'll rally around the cops when in Cleveland they said we're going to pull the cops off the field because the players were kneeling or demonstrating the issue of police brutality. But I don't see them rallying around her. It's amazing how they're very quiet.
They're not going to do it.
It's always different. Yeah. It's like with the NRA when someone black, uses a gun lawfully, registered, et cetera, and the NRA doesn't say anything. The calculus is always different, as you can see.
And so the challenge, reality is they're not going to do it. It's a great rhetorical question. We know they're not going to do it. So the real challenge should be, our organization, our apparatus, our sororities, our fraternities, the African American police organizations, and there's several of them out there. They need to do what we're challenging other people to do.
And it was very surprising. I don't know if anyone's watched the video in its entirety, but her message was about unity. It wasn't even really about, yes, she talked about those cops that could be racist that are putting the uniform on, but if you watch the whole thing, she's talking about unity and having mentors come in for juveniles that are maybe going down the wrong path. That's what the message was really about.
But the problem, though, is they don't like the fact that she dared to tell them, get the hell off of the forces and take the uniform off. And that's the fundamental problem here. The problem here, again, with people who are the likes of Sean Hannity and Fox News and these radio talk show hosts who are conservative is they don't want to call out these thug cops. They don't want to say jack about the cops in Chicago with Laquan McDonald who erased that video at Burger King. They don't want to say anything about how he lied by saying Laquan McDonald was charging him when in fact he was actually running away from him. See, they don't want to call him out. See, they want to rise to the defense. When you heard Megyn Kelly say, oh, hands up, don't shoot, that was all a lie. Okay, but you don't hear jack about Terrence Crutcher, who had his hands up, who was walking slowly, yet he's still end up dead. And that, to me, shows the hypocrisy because what it speaks to is they want to say, we're going to protect you at all costs. We're going to say, oh, a few bad apples, but they don't want to own up to the racists and the bigots who are there and to call them out as well.
Fox News is always trying to racialize everything and make everything black against white and make it a right against wrong argument.
Oh, hell yes.
And they do it with policing and Justin all the time.
No. I don't think you can even remotely compare the two because, again, when you have Tucker Carlson going on every night basically caping for white nationalists, and all of a sudden the aggrieved white men as if, oh my God, they've been so hurt by what's happening in America. No, that's the game here. And all of a sudden you finally are having these white columnists who are finally waking the hell up about this white male privilege, which we've been saying for so long.
Let's not forget, I'm sorry to interrupt, let's not forget what you really said. They ignore it. And there's an old adage, that which you ignore, you empower. And that's exactly why they're ignoring it, because it really empowers these racist officers to do it.
Show me how much coverage Fox News is doing on the Jason Van Dyke trial.
No. None.
Show me.
I mean, really, the breaking point for them really was Walter Scott, because the Walter Scott shooting was an absolutely in cold blood, in the back shooting, and even like Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott had to come out and admit that this was a shocking event, and even Fox News went stone silent on that, and that was one of the most sort of obvious examples of just an unjust police shooting on tape.
You know, I mean, we can analyze Fox News all day long and all night long. You know, they should just take away the word news.
Right.
Fox News has and always has been propaganda. They were created for the purpose of propaganda. Excuse me, I knew Roger Ailes. You know, I know what they attempted to do when they put it together. Now we're how many years? A couple of decades ahead.
Right.
But their whole job was to have a network that went to the other side of the political policy debate. And that's what they designed themselves
And let me show you. So I just went to foxnews.com and I typed in Laquan. No. I want you to, I want you. No,
facts are facts.
But I'm gonna read you. Matter of fact, do me a favor. Bring me the, I need the HDMI connection here. Because I need you to see this, because I'm proving with receipts.
Okay, and then we go to CNN.com.
No. Hold up. Now you want to go there?
You don't want to go there.
You don't want to go there.
No.
You don't want to compare.
Hold up, Kim.
You don't want to compare.
Okay, Kim.
Black and white people against each other all the time.
Hold on, Kim. Hold on.
Just go there.
Henry, go to my iPad.
Just go there. Yeah.
No, I got to
go to CNN. Go right to CNN.
What I did is I went to foxnews.com. Typed in Laquan McDonald. The latest, Chicago officer testifies in Laquan McDonald murder trial. The latest, expert explains PCP effect on Laquan McDonald. Judge denies change of venue bid in Laquan McDonald trial. Cop accused of killing Laquan McDonald, I'm not racist. Trial of Jason Van Dyke, Chicago officer accused of murdering Laquan McDonald, begins with jury selection. Chicago police officer believes Laquan McDonald murder charge is political, I'm not a racist. Chicago judge slaps white cop on trial for Laquan McDonald murder with 2 G5 for violating gag order. Prosecutor, November 14, 2017, no more indictments in Laquan McDonald shooting. I don't see any stories on foxnews.com where the prosecution put on their case. Not one. What I see.
Like
Hold on. Wait. Kim, wait a second. Kim, wait a second. See, first of all, Kim, this is why you shouldn't be defending nonsense. Here's the piece. Okay,
I'm not defending nonsense.
Kim, I'm proving something.
You're putting words in my mouth.
No, I'm showing you.
Go ahead.
No, because you start caping for Fox News. I'm showing you something.
Go ahead.
You go from the cop accused of killing Laquan McDonald, I'm not racist, to judge denying a change of venue, September 17th. 10 days go by. The latest, expert explains PCP effect on Laquan McDonald. They completely skipped over the prosecution putting the case on. Completely skipped over the inconsistencies in Jason Van Dyke's testimony. Completely skipped over it. Now, you said, let's go to CNN. We're going to do that. So I'm going to go to CNN.com.
And let's look at all the stories.
No.
Let's look at the stories where they're purposely pitting black and white people against each other.
No, Kim, that's cute.
Okay.
But I'm going to type in.
So we're just going to type in one case.
No. I'm doing an apples to apples comparison. And what I'm trying to get you to understand is that, to Joe's point, this is all by design. What this is all about is how
and when we go to a couple other stories, it is about design on every network.
Again, but see, you're caping again. That's what I'm trying to
Every network has an agenda. They all have. It's all the same.
Let's talk about this agenda right here, right now.
No, wait a minute.
Let's talk about this agenda.
Wait a minute. Here we go.
Okay, and then we'll talk about another agenda.
Chicago police officer facing murder charges. Laquan McDonald's family wants peace, no matter the outcome of trial for officer who killed him. Attorneys give opening statements in trial of Chicago officer charged with killing black man. Partner of Chicago police officer on trial for murder said victim was a threat. Chicago police officer testifies about fatal shooting of Laquan McDonald and says team kept advancing toward him with a knife. What we learned from Chicago police officer Jason Van Dyke's testimony. Defense rests in Chicago officer's trial in Laquan McDonald killing. You have far more perspective
On LaQuan McDonald.
Showing both sides of this trial. The point I'm making is a Fox News argument is, oh, we're going to ignore all the bad stuff with the cop.
Right.
But when he testifies, we're going to talk about him testifying.
CNN does the same thing with other stories.
I just
They do the same thing with other stories.
I just read for you.
Oh, my God.
No, they don't.
Okay.
Exactly what is on their website.
LaQuan McDonald, perhaps that is that case. But on other stories,
the one that you said
CNN
didn't happen.
does avoid things. Okay, let's look at Kavanaugh and Dr. Ford on CNN.
No. See,
Let's look at that.
Let's
look at that.
We are discussing. What happens right here with cop cases, because one audience, a white conservative audience, loves to go Blue Lives Matter, support the men and women in blue. But then when you have a black cop who is saying get rid of those folks who are beating people, then where are they?
Can I throw in just one observation? Fox News has not done what Roland Martin's show did, or Joe Madison's show did, or what Crump just said. They haven't even interviewed this woman.
And they're not going to.
They didn't. And if Fox News is very honest, and they are news, quote unquote, then they should have that police officer on the show. They have not had it. And what we're trying to say to you, that's a conscious decision not to have her on.
I understand
and
that.
why
what I'm
defend
trying
that?
to say to you
Why
is
defend that?
CNN
Hold on,
other stories.
1 second.
That is what
no,
news
hold on.
networks
No,
do.
wait a minute. Since you bring up Nakia Jones, Henry, go to my iPad. I'm looking right now on CNN.com. They have a video of her, black cop, at the Dallas shooting out here in blue. Then they had an interview, Black and Blue, double despair for African-American police. Okay? Now, they have not done a story tied to Nakia Jones since July of 2016.
And
you got that? Oh, wait.
And they're not going to.
Wait. Henry, come back to me.
And this is CNN.
No, stop.
Correct?
I'm now about to go to Fox News where I typed in Nakia Jones.
Nothing. Nothing.
Hold up, Kim. I'm sorry. Let me click advanced search.
Get advanced nothing.
Ain't nothing here.
Yes.
What else you got to say?
That is sad because Nakia Jones obviously she should have support.
So why do you think? Why do you think?
And CNN should actually do more, and they should also interview her.
CNN should do more. Fox has nothing.
No, Fox. I just said Fox should do more. I just said Fox should do more. I just said that.
Yeah, well then,
so you guys
then it's your responsibility. Wait a minute.
Do more.
Then it's your no. Look, there's a difference between doing more and doing nothing. And so the point is, and I'm a little concerned about you being beaten up the way you are, but you deserve it. The reality is you need to go to Fox News and whatever contacts you have and say, you know, they're whipping my butt over here at
I don't feel like you guys are whipping my butt because you know what? There are stories on many networks where they pit black people and white people against each other all
listen,
the time.
don't change.
Like
you go to Twitter feed for both CNN, MSNBC.
Excuse me.
That's how they lead
Excuse
things.
me.
That's what networks do, and you know
young lady, wait, don't tell me what I know.
You know this,
excuse me.
right?
No,
Is this what you do?
Excuse me.
No,
don't tell me what I know.
No, we don't.
Remember when we walked in the green room? You didn't even know who I was.
I looked you up and I knew that.
You didn't know who I was. You asked me, oh, you live around here? Now, so don't tell me.
I did.
Yeah, well,
I don't know everybody.
Yeah, that's my point. So don't tell me what I know. So now, having said that, what I'm saying to you is, all you have to do is say, you know what? Next time on that set at Fox, or next time I have an audience with the producers or the news director, I'm going to bring this up. I sat on a show, and you need to get this police woman on. That's all you have to do.
You're telling me I go on Fox?
I don't know where you go.
You don't know
Kim,
me?
you go on Fox all the damn time.
You don't know me either.
Wait a minute. Didn't she just say she goes on Fox all the time?
I didn't say that. When?
You just said it.
You don't go on
You go on Fox all the time,
I
Kim.
don't go on
Yes
Fox
or no?
all the time.
Kim.
It's a yes or no.
I go on Fox, but not all the time. I didn't just say that.
Kim.
I didn't just say that. But he did not know that.
Never
But
mind.
he
You
did
want me
not
to
know
pull some
that.
receipts on your
But he did
ass?
not know that.
You want me to go to your
So don't
Instagram
act like
page?
you know me
Kim,
when you don't.
Never mind.
You want
You
us to
don't
go on your Twitter page.
This is ridiculous.
I will pull out a nut receipt like the damn CVS receipt you get, where it's a long ass sheet of paper. You don't want to go there. Okay, y'all.
Look, all I'm asking is just, you know what? Just like that black woman stood up, and she said what she said to the officers that she has to work with. You, as an individual who also agrees with her and agrees with us on what has happened to her, do me a favor, speak up.
Okay.
Speak up. That's all I'm asking you to do.
And don't defend nonsense. Bottom line is, we're making a broader point, and that is this here, and that is what you have individuals who are in conservative media, who basically protect and serve cops, except when they don't like what they have to say. Just like Republican Party hates unions, except police unions.
I'm not denying that.
And what I'm trying to say is, this is symptomatic of what you have is black versus white. The fact that this black woman dared to call out these sorry, trifling, thuggish cops, they said, how dare you?
Who threatened to kill him.
That's why this woman got fired. And that's why they want to take her pension. And that's why the union is not showing up. And you know what? Those cops in Chicago have been showing up every single day. But Jason Van Dyke, leading the way when he's walking in court, providing security, speaking up for him, but you will not have the cops do the same thing for this sister, because it's the difference between what she said and her skin color, and that's what it boils down to. And speaking of a difference between skin color and how folks view it, let's talk about Agent Orange. Now, yesterday, Donald Trump, he decided to make a comment about these young men who are being wrongfully accused of crimes. Now, all of a sudden, the context of that really was Brett Kavanaugh, okay? A privileged 50-something-year-old white man who was just saying, I didn't do it. Yet, Donald Trump was the one leading the charge and talking about the Central Park Five. And so today, at the White House, two black reporters questioned Sarah Huckabee Sanders about this very issue of the Central Park Five and what Donald Trump had to say. And this is how she responded.
President Trump talked a lot yesterday about this issue of being concerned about men being guilty before being thought guilty before proven innocent, and this idea of due process. But in the past, with the Central Park Five, he put out an ad basically calling for the death penalty before they had been found convicted, and even after they were exonerated, he still basically said that they may be guilty. And even as president, he has talked about presided over rallies where people say lock her up, talking about Hillary Clinton. So I guess, is there a disconnect between when the president is interested in due process for some, but not for others?
Not at all. The president actually encouraged the Senate to hear Dr. Ford's testimony in the same way he encouraged them to hear Judge Kavanaugh's. He is simply stating the fact that we are a country of law and order. We are a country that still believes that you're innocent until proven guilty, and we want to see that process go through in its entirety, and it should be on a fair playing field. That's simply the only point he's making.
He said the Central Park Five was guilty.
Yes.
And does he feel that now?
I'd have to look back at the specific comments. Dave.
But that's the real question. In the midst of this, the president has taken this moment.
Dave, go ahead.
The president has taken this moment to say that he's been affected personally by all of these allegations, and he's picking and choosing, just as this question was. He said that the Central Park Five was guilty, and then he has made Bill Clinton guilty. Has he decided to change his mind on the Central Park Five as they have been exonerated?
It's interesting that you bring up Bill Clinton. Nobody wants to hear those accusers' voices be heard, but you're certainly happy to hear all the others. Dave, go ahead.
The president had them at the debate.
I've addressed this. I don't have anything else to add. Dave, go ahead.
Is he still talking to them?
Sarah, several times.
I'm sorry, did anybody hear an answer to the Central Park Five? Did you actually hear?
She can't answer because it's the depths of hypocrisy from this president that he stands up there and wants to talk about, what's so sad about it is that his underlying point is actually accurate. He is just, of course, the entirely wrong message for it. But this president, when it comes to Yusef Salaam and Antron McCray and Raymond Santana and Kevin Richardson and Corey Wise, he doesn't know anything about what it really means to be falsely accused of something. So the fact that he's brought this up in this context when it comes to Brett Kavanaugh is, of course, the height of irony. He took out a full-page ad in the New York Times to declare that these guys should have gotten a death penalty. We had absolutely no idea what he was talking about. But unfortunately, I do have to say I agree with the president in some ways, because in this moment, men are assumed guilty. When it comes to a Me Too accusation, it's very difficult to exonerate yourself in this situation. He's just the wrong person.
Henry, go to my iPad. This story here, folks, this is NBC News website from October 2016. Headline, Donald Trump says Central Park 5 are guilty despite DNA evidence. And Donald Trump issued a statement to CNN, Kim, to CNN, Kim. This is what he said, quote, they admitted they were guilty. The police doing the original investigation say they were guilty. The fact that that case was settled with so much evidence against them is outrageous, and the woman so badly injured will never be the same. Now, they were convicted, went to jail. Somebody else admitted to the crime. He was already in jail. They tested his DNA. Right. It matched the DNA that was also on her. A separate settlement. New York taxpayers had to spend $41 million in a settlement. And Donald Trump took a full-page ad out at that time and said they should get the death penalty in New York. Now we know they were completely innocent. Yet this man sat there and said they admitted they were guilty, and he doubled down and refuses to apologize to him. So why in the hell should anybody listen to him when he says that it's tough for young men in America who have been accused of something they didn't do, when he and then his spokeswoman won't even answer the question when it's clear and precise that he owes them an apology? What say you?
Yeah, it contradicts what he was saying today. I mean, obviously he owes them an apology. I think I'll take it a step further. I think he even said that they should suffer. And obviously they are innocent, and he should know, even just talking about Brett Kavanaugh, I think he should have offered an apology at that point in time, and he failed to do so, and that was a missed opportunity.
Joe?
Oh, what's your question? Whatever
you want to say.
First of all, it's not what he said today, it's the how he said it. Millions of women have bared their souls as it relates to sexual abuse. And he lacked the decency that he showed earlier when he suggested that the good doctor was an interesting individual with a sense of dignity. He stripped that dignity from her. The other thing I want to remind people and your audience is this. You do not get answers at White House briefings. Let's just understand that. We have an individual who is the president of the White House Correspondents.
Mm-hmm, right.
And he said on my show, Roland, you don't get answers at the White House briefing. All you get are briefings. And and you hit it. She ignored that question. She didn't have an answer. She wasn't going to have an answer. And if she had given the answer that you gave, and that I'll give, and that you'll give, she would have probably been fired by Donald Trump before she could get back to her office.
Here we go to my iPad. I want to show people this.
That's the ad,
that Donald Trump took out. Bring back the death penalty. Bring back our police. Yeah. And in this ad, you have all of this here, where he rips them and says, yes, this is what he says. Yes, Mayor Koch, I want to hate these murderers, and I always will.
Yeah. Right.
I am not looking to psychoanalyze or understand them. I'm looking to punish them. If the punishment is strong, the attacks on innocent people will stop. I recently watched a newscast trying to explain the anger in these young men. I no longer want to understand their anger. I want them to understand our anger. I want them to be afraid.
If anybody should be,
crazier,
if anybody should be psychoanalyzed, it should be the President of the United States. And there have been people who have done it from a distance. They've all come up with the same thing. Listen to what he just said. Even before he was president, even thought about being president, he's watching the news. You know, and we cannot have a president govern by sitting up watching the news unless he's watching this program. But I mean, the reality is that he hasn't changed. And I think one of the mistakes I think we make in this country is, you know what, we give this man too much attention, too much credit. I know he's president of the United States, but the reality is, I think most people now have seen what New Yorkers have known for decades about this man.
That's what I was going to say. As somebody who grew up in New York, you know, that thing that you just read, Roland, when I was a kid, I remember him being on TV voicing the exact same words from the ad. But, you know, we in the press make a huge mistake giving this guy a bullhorn, not realizing he's going after the First Amendment, right? And he has no respect for the First Amendment. He has no respect for our Constitution. And we end up effectively assisting him in his communication strategy by putting his nonsense out there. And of course, you know, Sarah Huckabee Sanders has no answer because the answer is clear. The man is a hypocrite, and there's really nothing, you know, there's really nothing to talk about with that.
I do want this final point we'll make before we end today's show. Here we go to my iPad. I want you to see the New York Times did an 8,000-word, 8-page investigation on the finances, the taxes of Trump and his family. The headline, Trump engaged in suspect tax schemes as he reaped riches from his father. It details with not opinion,
1 million to 60 million.
Yeah.
1 million. I only got $1 million. I became a self-made man. And 1 million is nothing to sneeze at. I wish my parents would give me 1 million to get started.
Kidding.
But he actually got 60 million.
But in real dollars, in essence, more than $400 million. They showed.
But bottom line, he lied.
Oh, he lied. But here's the piece that you said earlier. They put in this story, and they actually criticized their own newspaper. One of the earliest stories the New York Times did on Donald Trump, where he was riding around in this silver limousine paid for by his daddy. That he had $200 million, and the Times printed it. And the reason that man is sitting in the White House now is because national media sucked up to Donald Trump. And they believed the lies. And they let that man go on television presenting himself as this great businessman, which was a lie.
That which you ignore, you empower.
And let me tell you something, Joe.
And they've empowered him all the way.
And I'm going to tell you this here. When I was at CNN, I remember Wolf Blitzer used to always interview Donald Trump. And I went to one of the bookers, Stephanie Katubi, and I said, why in the hell do y'all keep putting Donald Trump on? And it was like, oh, every time Donald comes on, we get great ratings. I said, go talk to real CEOs, people who have real companies. And let me tell you something. We were on, this is when he was coming on Piers Morgan that night. And I was on CNN. And I was on one of the daytime shows, and I think it was, I forgot the anchor who was on. And I said this. I said, anytime Donald Trump comes on CNN, we should run a crawl at the bottom that says, for entertainment purposes only. I got an email from Ken Jouts, the executive vice president of CNN, telling me, do not criticize Donald Trump when he is coming on CNN. And I said, hell no. And that, you know, he did. And that night, when Obama was giving some speech, and I think it may have been a joint session of Congress, it was something dealing with taxes or something along those lines, the economy. Donald Trump was on Piers Morgan's show. And I just said, the hell with what Ken Jouts had to say. So I start tweeting. Like, why in the hell is this dude on? I said, of all CEOs in America, that's the only one we can somehow find, because here's why they kept calling him. Because he was extravagant, because he was loud, because he was garish, because he had a bloated attitude, because he talked big. They loved the flash. They loved the gold tower. They loved hanging out with him. They loved going to the parties. And it was national media. It was a New York Post, the Daily News, the New York Times. It was a New York Observer. It was CNN. It was. I can go down the line. All of these networks.
But get to what Les Moonves said.
Putting him on.
Get to what Les Moonves said. He's making them money, and Donald Trump understood that from the very beginning that he was making the media money. In New York, where we have the two major tabloids, which in their heyday, with 1980s, 1990s, Daily News and the New York Post, he knew that that was a symbiotic relationship. He was making money for them.
Moonves said it. And you get this quote. I play it almost once a week.
Right.
Donald Trump may be bad for, now this is what he said.
Yes, he did.
Bad for America, but he's good for CBS. Now, let me tell you something. Anytime a CEO of a major corporation says that this man that we promote is bad for the country, but he's good for my company, that is unpatriotic and un-American.
And dangerous.
Oh, of course it's dangerous. Because I'll say it and I'll end with this. That's what Hitler did. You know what Hitler, you know who Hitler made, what was the enemy? You know what Hitler said? He said, we're going to make Germany great again. And his biggest enemy was the media, was the press. He declared them the press. The parallels are frightening.
Right. The dictators go
and
after the press.
And we cannot become a nation of onlookers, and we cannot keep making excuses.
Kim, Trump, of course, he trashed this particular story, but he did not counter the details in it. The fact of the matter is it was exhaustive. They actually looked at tax returns, broke this whole thing down. At the end of the day, there were suspect things that were actually done when it came to taxes and how they were actually cheating when it comes to saving money.
The only reason he's not showing his taxes is he's got something to hide.
He knows exactly. Kim, go ahead.
It's Joe done.
No, Joe done.
Oh, I'm never done.
I also think about that the time period. I mean, just that amount of money right now is a lot. Just think about then. But yeah, so, you know, you could say a lot about President Trump. You know, I know a lot of people do not favor him at all, especially in the GOP. And that's how it goes.
The sad part is he's a master manipulator that unfortunately so many in the press have fallen for. That part is the press's fault. The fact that he's able to manipulate to that level and get away with it and not be called on it is the fault of many in the press.
But speaking of that, so there was a panel the other day. Ted Koppel, longtime anchor on ABC Nightline. Brian Stetler, of course, the media reporter from CNN, was on the panel as well. And this whole issue of Trump and the media and ratings and all that good stuff came up. Receipts. Henry, go to my iPad.
We've left out a key word. Everybody here keeps talking about ideology and politics. Money. 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 Donald Trump has been very, very good for baseball. He has been wonderful for the industry. Your boss acknowledged as much a number of months ago during the campaign.
Les Moonves.
Donald Trump, huh?
It was Les Moonves who acknowledged it.
Les Moonves also acknowledged it, but so did the head of CNN.
But that means what? If ratings are up, that means what?
The ratings are up. It means you can't do without Donald Trump. You would be lost without Donald Trump.
Well, that is what he says.
Ted, you know that's not true.
CNN's ratings would be in the toilet without Donald Trump.
You know that's not true. You're playing for laughs. You've lived through enough presidencies to know there will be more presidents.
What were the ratings before Trump and what are the ratings now?
I would say we might be up 20, we might be up 30%, we might be up 40%. If we go back down 40%, that's okay too.
Well, it may not be okay.
Of course it is. No, but hold on. I reject the premise that these networks are making so much money off of Trump and thus we benefit from it.
Tell me for a moment, if you will, let's get away from CNN then, all right? Sensitive subject. Let's go to MSNBC. Is there a moment of the day when they are not focusing on Donald Trump or some intimately related subject? It is essentially, I know every once in a while. You know, if the number of people who died in Indonesia gets up to 1,000, they'll give it a mention or two. But by and large, the only news that's covered, program after program after program.
Ted, I have to interrupt.
With the same guest.
Ted,
yes, please.
But you've got to admit, an awful lot of what Trump does in the course of a day is news.
Yes, of course.
And so whether you're an MSNBC or CBS or ABC, you're going to cover him.
Yeah.
Receipts? Ted with the receipts?
As somebody who worked around Ted Koppel, ABC News, I've never been prouder of him as in that moment. I mean, that was telling the truth. And when you tell the truth like that, you saw how nervous everybody got. It's accurate. The ratings are off the hook. Everybody knows that.
Because and I said this, and I said that media executives absolutely wanted Trump to win because they knew it was going to be a crazy, deranged reality show every day. They knew he was going to say crazy stuff. That's why when he was running, they would sit there and they would show empty podiums waiting for the circus to begin. That's why every single one of those networks went against their own policy and allowed him to call in. We all have done national television. We all have done national television. If you are a candidate and you want to come on, you got to bring your ass to a TV studio, or you got to sit a live truck. Oh, you can call in. He called in Joe. He called in Fox and Friends. He called in CNN. He didn't have to come in. Hey, Doc, Hillary Clinton could not have called in as much as he did.
That's right.
Years ago, and here's the term that a program director came to me and said when I first started in talk radio. We are now doing something called infotainment.
Yes.
Right.
And we asked, what is infotainment? And infotainment is trying to find information but presenting it in an entertaining way.
Right.
And that is, so when newsrooms, and some people don't remember this, they were not profit centers.
No.
The entertainment channels were your profit centers. Newsrooms had to deliver the news. And again, Roland and everyone else, every morning I'm up at 3:30. And I know what I'm going to do in the morning. You prepare your show. You've got producers. Donald Trump takes the air out of everything. Right. I'm not saying that you don't cover what the president does, but every tweet should not lead a news cast.
And he gets it. He gets the power of what it is to talk in sound bites, to talk in a sort of market-friendly way. Donald Trump totally understands that. And what the media needs to understand is that we're being played. The media is being played. You're being played.
Every single day. Kim, go ahead.
I also want to say I think President Trump actually made a lot of careers. I think on Twitter all of the time, I'm always explaining to people the difference between a media personality and a journalist.
I agree
and
with
a
that.
lot of people don't seem to get it and understand it.
So whose careers he made?
Let's see. There's a lot of people.
Who?
Well, there's a lot of books out there that.
Well, Diamond and what's her name?
Diamond and Silk, definitely.
First of all, look,
the police officer.
That's polyester cubic zirconia. I mean, you know.
The police officer, Sheriff Clark.
Look, you know how long those
Paris Denard would not have existed on CNN without Trump. I said Paris would not have existed on CNN.
Okay, first of all, Paris Denard, the only show Paris Denard could do was News One Now on TV One. Actually, Paris should be sending me a check. Because people got the CNN job.
But I mean, these people who get booked only to defend Trump, their careers were, of course, forwarded by him.
And not only that, and let me go ahead and say this now so we actually have it on tape. The next Democratic president, I don't want to hear a damn thing from nobody at Fox News if somebody who's black in the media is advising a Democratic president.
Oh, I know. After Sean Hannity.
When you got Peter Hegseth and Kimberly Guilfoyle
Sean
and Lou Dobbs and Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham literally, y'all, not talking to him through the TV. But literally.
Thinking about applying for jobs.
No, weighing in on public policy. When he's in meetings, I don't want to hear a damn thing. If you have somebody else and they decide to call up Joe Madison, Joe's like, hell yeah, why don't y'all go and hire so-and-so and so-and-so? Don't criticize nobody else. Because they see, we going to put.
They crossed the line with that one, yeah.
We're going to pull out receipts on your ass. Just letting you know. All right, final comment.
No, I'm good. You know what? I echo what Joe said. I mean, he does take the oxygen out of things, and he knows how to take the oxygen out of things. But it's a symbiotic relationship.
Got it.
He can't do it without the press assisting him.
All right, folks.
We can't become a nation of onlookers.
Right.
And that he's 70+ years old. He's not going to change.
Right.
But it's up to us. and let me tell you, we flip this Congress come November, we can check him, because if the United States Congress cannot use the tool that the Constitution gave them, then you need to find new Congress people.
All right, folks, we got to go. Great show today, Roland Martin Unfiltered. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Y'all have a good one. Holla!